Hi guys, my name is Esther. I work for a charity called UCCF which helps students explore the Christian faith, and I'm really excited to join with you this evening to look at the topic Redefine Identity. This is a huge topic and I think one that is vital in being discussed at university. Why? Because university can often be that time where our own identity and worth come into question. Feeling a sense of self-worth and having a firm identity is something I can all say that we probably struggle with, and I'm not immune from that either. Conscious of my own weight, beauty, grades, my career, my future, my relationships. At university and still now, it felt like I fluctuated between comparison and low self-worth one minute to puffed up pride the next. There was no in between. And I'm not alone in this. World famous singer Madonna stated, "My drive in life comes from a fear of being mediocre. That is always pushing me. I push past one spell of it and discover myself as a special human being. But then I feel I am still mediocre and uninteresting unless I do something else. Because even though I've become somebody, I still have to prove that I am somebody. My struggle has never ended, and I guess it never will." Our worth and therefore our identity can often fluctuate based on those around us and their opinions of us. That can make us feel amazing about ourselves one minute and the next in despair. Roosevelt once stated that comparison is a thief of joy. And actually we can see that, can't we? We think we are a great singer and then we hear it out. We think we are successful and then we meet someone earning more money than us. We think we're doing well at uni, we got that 75, and then we meet someone who got the magical 80. We came to uni having been amazing in our sports clubs at home, to find we're no longer the best in the team. And in all those moments, we feel a little worthless. We feel shaky, not grounded in a solid identity, but feel fearful of our place in our friendship groups, in our course, in our career, and in ourselves. We hear numerous times a day the world telling us to care for ourselves, to love ourselves, to be kind to ourselves, and yet we often still don't feel fulfilled. Theologian Tim Keller states, "What Madonna is looking for is what we're all looking for, an ultimate verdict that we are important and valuable. We look for that ultimate verdict every day and in all situations and people around us. And that means that every single day we are on trial. Every day we put ourselves back in a courtroom. Every day we are seeking to be fulfilled, to have a longing sense of worth." Do you remember that banger from Trainor, All About That Bass? She stated, "I see the magazines working that Photoshop. We know that ain't real. Make it stop. If you've got beauty, just raise them up. You know, I won't be no stick figure silicone Barbie doll. Every inch of you is perfect, from the bottom to the top." Wow, wouldn't that be the best mantra of our lives as we looked at the distorted images around us of what it means to be beautiful, handsome, successful and powerful, and hold to every inch of you is perfect from the bottom to the top? Is that what worth means? To proclaim that statement over yourself until you believe it? To believe that every inch of you is perfect? Our identity can often be centred around our self-worth. And what areas do we put our worth in? Is it our grades, our friends, our looks? Where we place our worth can often reveal in our hearts where our identity is. And therefore, I think it's helpful if we actually define what self-worth is. And I've taken this definition from Adam Szynski. He is a psychologist and a life coach, and he says this: "To have a high level of self-worth means having a favourable opinion or estimate of yourself. It means having unshakable faith in yourself and in your ability to follow through and get things done. Having a high degree of self-worth means feeling worthy of good things." Therefore, we can take from Szynski that in order for us to have a good sense of self-worth, we must totally and utterly believe in ourselves, our abilities, and say, I am greater. Throughout his article, his main solution to the power of having a secure identity is this: never allowing yourself to be defined by outside forces, including people's opinions, and not letting anything outside of yourself being an influence how you feel about yourself. Szynski suggests that in order to achieve worth, we need to deny others' opinions around us, to not trust and reflect on their opinions on us, to be strong enough within to tell ourselves we can overcome. He calls on his readers to have this particular mantra fill their minds and hearts. I fully accept every part of myself, including my flaws, fears, behaviours and qualities that I'm not proud of. The good, the bad, the ugly. That is who I am, and I'm at peace with that. I think in theory what Szynski is saying is true. We need not let others' negative opinions affect us. We should be strong enough to feel a sense of security in our identity. However, I think this is easier in theory than in practice. And there are a few areas of Szynski's argument that I think could be flawed and yet again still don't offer us the solution we also desire. What I find interesting about this article is the idea of having an unshakable faith in oneself. Dr. Christina Hibbert states, when we place all our value on one thing, what happens when that good thing comes crumbling down? Our value crumbles with it. And we can see that, can't we? If we make an idol out of money, if that money goes, then we'll be crushed. Or if we make an idol out of a relationship and that relationship fails, then we feel crushed. While Szynski's answer is to look within on one's unshakable faith, I would like to pose the question, what if within is that idol, that good thing that crumbles away, and therefore our value crumbles with it? Szynski is suggesting that within us is a solid, absolute foundation in which we can trust and rely on, one that won't shake, stumble or fall. Yet ironically, I think what Szynski suggests as the solution is actually the issue. The issue itself is that when we look for worth and a basis for identity, we either look out to others who can make us feel worse sometimes, or we look within where we actually see the same result. I think with both responses, we come to the same main issue: humans. That sounds quite bizarre, doesn't it? Because actually, if we're going to find worth and a solid identity, maybe the issue isn't just others' opinions, it runs deeper than that. I think the issue is that when we look within, we also see that we are deeply flawed. Inside us, we have beautiful things, don't we? We see kindness, love, caring natures, compassion. Yet we also see selfishness and pride. I let people down, and I actually see that in my friends as well. Therefore, in a world where just I existed, I don't think my worth and identity would get any better, because in my own self, I have the capacity to love, but also to hate, to rip myself and others apart. Therefore, actually, when I look within, I see as much, if not more, harm to my self-worth and identity. I remember one time just looking in front of the mirror, beating myself up over the way I looked, that tiny spot that seemed huge, my flaws, my imperfections, the way I acted and treated friends, and I felt despair. That wasn't based on anyone ever pointing out those things to me, I just felt them within. And by merely telling myself that I am better, that didn't help. It didn't seep into my heart's desire for worth. I needed something, someone other than myself who could be a foundation. It is no surprise then, as we look outwards and within, that we still feel that crumbling that Hibbert refers to. Because as Coldplay states in their song Clocks, am I part of the cure or part of the disease? Therefore, we're left with a dilemma. We feel the need to be in meaningful relationships in this world, and we can see that looking merely within doesn't help solve the problem. So what can we do? Well, I think that the Christian faith holds a compelling answer to where we should find our worth and identity. That inbuilt desire in us to be in relationship is not a coincidence. There is a reason we absolutely love being in the community and why most of us probably miss it right now. And that is because we have a God who created us to be like that. A God who within his three persons of Father, Son and Holy Spirit, known as the Trinity, has a relationship within himself. We are in fact created out of an overflow of that love and relationship. In our very essence, we are created out of and into relationship. Instead of accepting the mantra, I fully accept every part of myself, including my flaws, fears, behaviours and qualities I'm not proud of, the good, the bad, the ugly. That is who I am and I'm at peace with that. We shouldn't feel at peace with that. We should and we do feel the hurt of that. We are not stone objects. We feel it when we hurt others, when we let them down. I think the solution is not to say we're at peace with it. That won't solve the issue. The answer is peace, but not by shouting it over ourselves, but by looking to someone who can give us true and fulfilling peace. I think the answer to our issue is to look outside ourselves to God. Only in Jesus can we see someone offering us freedom, liberation, and peace from those things. Which leads on to considering unshakable faith. If we look to see the flaws in our friends and we reflect that they are also in us as well, we cannot have unshakable faith in ourselves. Soren Kierkegaard once stated, "It is a normal state of the human heart to try and build its identity around something besides God." You see, our self can become an identity. Therefore, looking inwards does not provide us with worth. The beginning of self-worth and a solid identity is to not tell ourselves we are great, but to admit we are broken and to look to someone who can give us worth. Instead, we are incredibly shaky. We are not a firm foundation we can rely on. Yet, if we look outside ourselves, to a compassionate God who came down to earth, Jesus, who was fully God and fully man. He knew what it was like in this world, the pressures, the emotions, the hardships and the joys, and yet he remained perfect. One of the poems in the Bible states, "Who is a rock except our God?" A rock is a firm foundation. It does not crumble or fall. A rock is unshakable. And the Bible suggests that God is this rock. That the only unshakable foundation we can rely on is looking to someone who is perfect, Jesus. Maybe we should look to find our identity and worth, not within, where we see brokenness and hurt, but outward to a God who calls for relationship with us, who can sustain us, who is that unshakable foundation that we so desire and need. There is a beautiful story in the Bible. A lady who has been bleeding for 12 years comes and touches Jesus' cloak, and immediately she gets healed. Jesus asks, "Who has touched me?" And when he sees the woman, he states, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering." This woman's chronic illness meant that she was completely isolated from her community. There was a cultural stigma attached to her bleeding. She wasn't welcomed, liked or included. And she had spent all her money on doctor's cures, yet they still hadn't sorted her illness. Riskily, she braves the crowd and she comes to Jesus. What happens when she comes to him? She's healed. And Jesus replies, "Daughter, your faith has healed you." It's not her bravery that healed her, but her faith. Because she had faith in Jesus, he restored her dignity. He took away her illness. He reunited her back into the community, giving her dignity and worth. And that is just like Jesus. He gives us dignity and worth. He restores us. In Kanye West's song, Closed on Sunday, he states, "My life is no longer my own. I know Christ is the foundation that filled my cup." You see, the answer to our own worth and identity is, as Kanye alludes to to give our lives over to a solid foundation, to Jesus who will restore and redeem us, to Jesus who can fulfill our identity, not in money or success or power, but knowing we are loved by him, secure in him, protected by him. It is none of us and all of him. Instead of those false idols crumbling away, he is a rock. He stands firm, and in him we can trust. I'm here today to say that I believe in Jesus, and yeah, I still struggle sometimes. I can often fluctuate in how I feel about myself. Yet what is different is that I'm not dependent on idols to provide me with satisfaction or fulfillment. I'm not dependent on my husband for that, or on my job, or on my friendships, or on myself for that. Why? Because I know that it is Jesus who sustains and fulfills me. It is in him who grounds my identity, and it is in him that I have a worth beyond imagination. It is through Jesus that I get to wonderfully accept when others praise and encourage me, my mum's cheering me on, or my friends' encouragement. It is also through Jesus that means when someone says something that hurts me, I don't have to feel crushed by it. I can respond to it in a healthier way because my identity is in him. Because he is the one that grounds my identity. I am not captive to other people's opinions, but free to listen to them and still have a firm and solid identity. We are all of value. We are all precious. We deserve worth. And that is given to us, not inside ourselves, but external to ourselves, in Jesus. Why not investigate Jesus for yourself a little bit further? Maybe you've been intrigued what I've said about worth. You can ask me a question about that in a minute. But actually, our identity is such an important question, and I really think Jesus is the answer for completely redefining our identity. Thanks so much for having me to speak.